Hello everyone, welcome back to my booktube. I'm a romance reader and I love all things to do with books, so if you like that sort of content, don't forget to subscribe and let's get into the video. So for today's video, I thought that would do a March book wrap up for you because I didn't do one of these last month and I thought let's do it this month. However, I have only read one extra book than I did last month, so I was still debating on whether to put this video up, but I thought, you know what, it's not a competition and let's just talk about the books that I have read. So I have read one in a physical form only. I've read an audiobook, well, listen to an audiobook, and I have read one physically / on my Kindle, so I switched between the two. So the first one that I decided to read was a Freida McFadden. Now I haven't been picking up a book and I think that's what it was. I was like, you know what, let's pick up a Freida McFadden because I know that I like her writing, I know that she keeps you gripped and I will more than likely enjoy this book. So this one is One by One by Freida, and this one is a short book, and I thought, you know what, let's just read a short one and I can read it quick and it'll be gone and done and finished. However, I'm sorry Freida, I absolutely love your books, but this one for me just wasn't it. This was not it. So this is about a few couples that go on a retreat holiday and they are getting away from the kids and getting away from stresses of life, and they're like, you know what, let's book a holiday and we'll all go together. And it's more like I think it was a yearly thing that they did, I believe. I'm sure it was. If it wasn't, correct me. But they go in this camper van of the two main characters and they travel there. However, when they get there, they are kind of lost, and one of them are like, right, let's go this way because I've been here before, let's go this way, and you'll be able to get there. However, they get lost in the woods. So after they get lost in the woods, obviously they're having to try and navigate the way round, trying to find out where this place is through this woods, even though it's on a scorching hot day. They've got a compass, they've got a bag, but they haven't got much food or water. So the reason why it's called One by One is because they get eliminated one by one. It's like a fucking game show. However, you think that's kind of good because it's like guessing who's who, because it's obviously one of the characters that are in that sort of sense, but it was very repetitive. It was getting a bit boring, and it was, you know, it just kept going and going and going, and I was like, oh my god, it needs to get to the point now. I sort of guessed who it was or who it was surrounding. However, there was some other fucked up shit that happened in between, and then at the end obviously you find out who it was and who it was surrounding, which is normal for Freida McFadden and the way that she writes a book. However, I just didn't really like this one. Like I say, it was very drony, it was very repetitive, and I was like, I don't really care. Like, it's just the same thing every day. Like, they were going to sleep in the middle of the woods and then someone else disappears, and then they did something else again and then someone else disappears, and it's just like, there was no go in it for me personally. I mean, I did read it in a few days, but that's just because Freida's normally snappy and quick, but it wasn't one of my favourite books, and I probably wouldn't pick these out of the other ones that I've read. And unfortunately, I feel like since I've read Never Lie and Locked Door, they were like my favourite books and they were the first books I read by her. I'm just not really getting the same feeling as the rest of them once I start reading them again. But the only one I did was obviously Co-Worker, and I really enjoyed that one. But The Boyfriend and this one so far, I'm just not loving it. And I have rated this one lower than The Boyfriend because I think The Boyfriend is a little bit better than this one, but I can't recommend it, to be honest, because it's not really a book that I think, oh my god, this is amazing. It really kept me gripped. It was very repetitive and it just kept going on and on and on. I was like, okay. One of the characters in the book, as I was reading it, I was like, you sound sussed, you're getting on my nerves. It's clearly going to be something to do with you. But I didn't guess who else was involved with it. So yeah, unfortunately this one for me only got 2 stars this month and I just wasn't loving it. So the next book I read, or listened to shall I say, is Keep It in the Family by John Mars. Now a lot of people have said that if you like Freida McFadden books then you might like John Mars, and I saw this one and I thought, let's give this one a go. And I went into this one blind. I didn't know what it was about or anything, and I just decided to listen to it and I kind of enjoyed it. It wasn't as bad as some of the other thriller books I've read, and I definitely would go into looking at other books that he's read, other books that he has written. But this one, to start with, I was a bit like, this is not a thriller book, like there's nothing thrillery about it. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I started reading, I was like, maybe it is. This one has 2 main characters that are a couple, and they basically are wanting to buy a house, and they ended up meeting because it was in a bar one day and they ended up meeting together. She ended up going on a night out with her friends, I think it was, because she just split with her ex-boyfriend, and she was very much in the limelight because of her boyfriend and he cheated on her, so she was like kind of going back, and she decided to just go out on a night out. Ended up meeting this other man. He was technically with somebody else, but then he splits up with a woman that he's with and then ends up asking her out. So they end up going out and stuff like that, and that's how that happens. And then obviously years later, they want to buy this house. Now his mum and dad are also wanting to buy this house at the same time, and his mum doesn't really get on and doesn't really like the vibe of this main character. And there's a fly in this room. Doesn't like the main female character. So she's like, oh, I'm gonna get this house, and they're like fighting against it. And in the end they give up and was like, you know what, you lot have it. So they ended up getting this house. This house is, like, bearing in mind, absolutely battered, and no one's lived in it for a very long time, but they don't actually know why, until one day they end up going into the attic and they find these suitcases that have something in them. So obviously when they open it, they are absolutely mortified by what is inside them. So at the front of the suitcase there is neatly folded children's clothes, and inside is bodies of missing children. So obviously in that house there were killings and everything of these children. So they are very young children being stuffed into these suitcases. So this book, I don't feel like had a trigger warning at the beginning. I can't remember if it did or not, but if that's sort of something that triggers you, then don't read this book, because it is about dead children. So anyway, these children obviously have gone missing for a very long time and there's no trace of them. However, in this house there is, was there 2 or 3? Can't remember what it was. It was like 2 or 3 suitcases with these particular children inside. And obviously they had to ring the police are investigating it, and then other things start unraveling. So this Mia then ends up getting pregnant, even though she's never been able to have a baby before. All of a sudden she gets pregnant, and it's happened kind of like the wrong time, if that makes sense. So they've obviously going through all this as well, buying a house and then finding these children, and then she's finding out she's pregnant, which obviously her husband's really excited for. And then once they have the baby, she sort of goes through a postnatal depression part of her life, and she's very, very struck on trying to find what's happened to these children and who the fuck's done it, basically. And as things start unraveling, she's adamant that she knows these people, she's got to find out these people, but her husband is like, what the fuck, like, why is your main focus on finding out who's done this rather than your actual newborn baby? Like, you've not even bothered with your newborn baby and not paid any attention to him. But she's still going through this postnatal depression. They're like, come on, you need to go and get help, and she's like, no, I don't need help, I'm absolutely fine. She's adamant she's gonna find out who's done it and what the fuck's happened to these children. But yes, I did enjoy it towards the end, because like I say, the drama started to unfold at the end more so. And I think in the middle of the book I was a bit like, it got to about 50% of the way through and I was a bit like, it's not really a thriller book, I don't understand what's going on. But then towards the end of the book I was like, fucking hell, oh my god, it turns out that, you know, who you thought it wasn't that person, but it kind of was. I was like, what the fuck? So yes, it's very, very messed up, and that's what normal thrillers are. And I would definitely go into buying or looking at other books that he's wrote, because it was a decent story. But I think if you are triggered by that sort of killing and that sort of motive with that, because obviously it's to do with children and stuff, I suggest don't fucking read it, because it is quite dark and depressing and a bit, you know, screw loosed. And I would say, oh yeah, you kind of understood why they did it, but you don't, because it's I don't even know what would go through your head. But obviously it was a good story, I did enjoy it, and I don't know if there's more to it, because at the end of the story there was kind of like a few sentences at the end which made me think, is there another part to this story? And I don't know. So if you do know if there's another part to this story, let me know, because I probably would listen to it, because I kind of know what's going to fucking happen next. So yeah, I gave that story probably about 3.5. I think it was just because at the beginning I was a bit like, this is not thriller, this is not a fucking thriller. And then after a bit I was like, yeah, it is a thriller. So yeah, I definitely would carry on reading his books, because like I say, that one, there was a few moments in there I was a bit like, oh my god, what the fuck, and I was like, ugh, and I actually wanted to throw up sometimes in it. But it was to a point where I was like, this one is actually quite a, you know, decent book. But yes, anyway, so I have read a John Marrs book now, and I would more likely read another one of his. And then the last book I have is This Man. Now, I haven't technically finished reading it, but I'm not very far away from finishing it, as you can see. So This Man, I have read this in a reading vlog. If you have watched that video, then you'll know that it's not really my favourite book at the minute, and I'm not really loving it. The only reason I'm not really loving it is because it's very fucking repetitive at the minute. Like for the past, I don't know, 5-6 chapters, like that much of the book, it's just the fucking same. Like if you love 50 Shades of Grey, you're gonna like this one, because 50 Shades of Grey is very much a sex on every single fucking page. There was a little bit of a storyline to begin with, and then after that it was just 1, 2, 3. I was like, oh my god, how many times can you do it? Like, I know, you know, a spicy book, but this is like completely just that, and that's it. That there's no real storyline to it. And I do like a bit of spice in a book, and I do like to read about it, but if there's no other storyline to it, it's not really a fucking book. I might as well just, you know, just watching a thingy film, do you know what I mean? But I've got, I think, another 10 chapters to go, I think, to be honest. Let me see how many pages, how many books there is. I'm just trying not to, I've got that much of it left. 33. Yeah, I've got around about 10 chapters to go in it. I am thinking about DNF it, because I'm like, oh, but I'm like, you're not far away, so you might as well just fucking finish it. But it's very much a story. It's basically about this girl that's a interior designer, but because she's so young, people are looking at her like, oh my god, how did you manage that? How have you got into that business so young? But she basically did something, and this bloke ended up finding her work at a young age, and he was like, right, I want you to take on this job in my company. And she decided to do that, and then she's this really good interior designer. Now this rich fucking man has had this hotel that he wants renovating in certain parts of the rooms, and he's asked for her specifically to do the renovation and to, you know, tart it up basically. And they obviously meet, they start to get to know each other, and they're like, right, what's your plans? But he's a bit fucking tapped. He's a bit like, he comes across very narcissistic because he's very in her face 24/7. And he starts like showing his feelings. She's like, oh my god, like I'm so flustered by this man, he's so beautiful. And she starts going a bit gaga over him. However, he feels that attraction, shall we say, towards her, and he's put his number in her phone because when she's gone to the toilet, she's left her portfolio there, a bag, and a fucking phone with a man she has no idea who the fuck he is, hasn't took anything with her while she goes to the toilet, and he's managed to unlock her phone, put his number in, and starts texting her, and she's like, how the fuck did he get my number? Bearing in mind, would that not, first thing in your fucking head would be like, why the fuck are you going through my phone? And 2, how the fuck did you get through my phone? And then after that, they obviously start getting, I'll say get to know each other, but they don't really, because all they do is shag each other. All they do is shagging each other. He is very controlling over her. Like, he's starting to tell her what to wear, where she can go. Like, when she's like, oh, I've got loads of work to do, and he's like, no, I want you to come and have dinner with me. And she's like, well, I've got to go to work. I've got to go and do something at work. Like, I've got loads to do. I need to catch up with all of my emails and all my business stuff. And he's like, well, I'm going to take you out to dinner. He starts showing up in a workplace and taking her out for dinner. And then he's like, oh, you're not buying that dress? And she's like, yeah, I am. Even though it's like £500 a fucking dress, because she randomly goes in and spends that money. I'm like, what the fuck? And he starts trying to control her. And then she's like, oh, why does he try and control me? Why does he tell me this, that and the other? And then something else will happen. They'll start having sex again. She's like, oh, gaga over again. And I just think that's what can happen in a domestic, not domestic, what's it called? A narcissistic trait of a man, or in people in general. They can try and get on your side. And I feel like I've gone so white again. Do apologise about the lighting. And that can kind of happen in real life as well. You know, they try and get on your side and try and make you feel a certain way so they can, you know, control you and manipulate you. And it's so annoying because I just want to put my fist through his fucking face. But then he's like buying her stuff, and I think, yeah, it's love bombing. Like, he's love bombing her, and it's fucking winding me up. But she's like, oh, he's the best in bed, like, he's so good, and he's treating me like this. And then all of her friends are like, oh my god, you know, he treats you so well, like, the way he looks at you. And I'm just like, yeah, it's all a pretense. Like, it's so fucking false. So it's actually winding me up more so. And some of the points in the book, I'm just like, I want to fucking fling it out the window. So at the minute, I'm only giving it 2 stars. And that's being generous, to be fair, because it's just fucking, probably 2 stars for the spicy scenes in it. The rest of the fucking book is just one after another after another, but it's very repetitive at the minute. And I'm like, I'm nearly finished this book. We've got no further in the fucking character development. Like, we don't even know about him. We don't even know his age. That's all she keeps asking her. How old are you? How old are you? And he's like, oh, I'm not going to tell you because I'm scared that you're going to run away from me if I tell you how old I am. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. Like, it's just fucking irritating. So it's kind of a negative wrap up, but here we are. So yeah, I just think that if you do like 50 Shades of Grey, it's very much the same, but he's a bit more demanding and a bit more like, you're gonna be mine whether you like it or fucking not. And I'm like, what the fuck? So there is another 2 books in this series, which I have the last book in the series is physical, but I'm like, I'm not really feeling it, so I might end up DNFing it, to be fair. But I'm like, no, I need to know what happened, to be honest. Now I'm this far away, I don't know. She'll probably get fucking married to him. And also, at the minute, spoiler alert, she is obviously doing all this stuff with him, right? And all of a sudden she's like, oh, I need my pill. I can't find my pills. And she's like, where the fuck are they? I can't find them. So I think there's going to be an unexpected pregnancy trope somewhere in there. And he's trapping her in that sense. Which I'm like, what the fuck? It's a bit, yeah, it's a bit fucking narcissistic manipulation. And it's a bit like, it's giving me the fucking ick, to be honest. Like he's love bombing her straight in. Don't even know fuck all about him. We know he's a hotel manager and his uncle gave it to him. That is fucking it. That is literally all we know about him. I mean, all we know about that is really good in bed and she can't help it, help herself, and that's the fucking end of it. I know that was quite a negative wrap up, and I feel like every time I do these book wrap ups, there's always like a couple of books in it where I'm like, oh, I'm not really feeling it. But it's just, I'm just giving my opinion. That's my opinion, that's what I'm saying. If I don't like it, I can't force myself to like it, do you know what I mean? So yeah, anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please give it a big thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.